Welcome back to Antigua Barbuda today. Well, our next guest was born in St. Kitts and she's now living in the U.S. She is the author of 18 children books for children of all ages. And today she joins us to speak about 5 of those books, in the Caribbean Adventure series. We're speaking now virtually with Carol Mitchell. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
My pleasure. So before we dive into the adventure, tell us a bit about Carol Mitchell. Your childhood, your traveling, your awards, the works.
Okay, sure. So as I said, my name is Carol Mitchell. I've been writing since about 2007. Started with the Adventure at Brimstone Hill. As you also said, I'm currently living in the US, but my home and my heart is always in the Caribbean. I was born in St. Kitts, grew up in Trinidad, and just always absorbed our culture of storytelling, and the expansion of the imagination. And it became really important to me for children in the Caribbean to see really authentic and interesting and exciting stories that reflected themselves. And that's kind of how I got started writing. And since then, it's been an amazing journey. I have, as you said, some of my books have been nominated for different awards, been shortlisted here and there. I've had a few books published with HarperCollins in the UK. And I actually have a book coming up in fall next year that's really exciting, that just got bought by a publisher. So there's been a lot going on. It's been an amazing journey, but the most important part of it for me has always been the interactions that I get to have with young people, and to see how exciting and how interested they get in reading when they see themselves on the page, and they see their own culture and their locations, really reflected there.
Definitely, that's wonderful. You said something about the most important part being the interaction with the children, and I must say, I totally relate to that because I'm a big fan of the children, because there's nothing like seeing them smile and making them happy. So
Yeah.
we're talking about the Caribbean Adventure series, 5 books set in 5 different islands. Can you walk us through the who, the what, the where of this exciting adventure?
Sure. So the Caribbean Adventure series focuses around 3 children, Mark, Ingrid, and Kyle, and they're about 11 years old. And they also have a monkey called Chi Chi. The monkey belongs to Mark. And through Chi Chi, somehow, they haven't quite figured out yet how it happens, but they have these adventures that they travel in time and sometimes in place. So the first book is set in my home country, St. Kitts and Nevis, and it's set at Brimstone Hill, which is, I tell people I've traveled the entire world. Well, not the entire world, but I've traveled a lot. And I've, made the effort to visit a lot of important historical sites, and Brimstone Hill still stands out as number one for me. And so it's a great place to have an adventure. So in the first book, Mark and one of his friends, Ingrid, they stumble up into the past, and they end up having this adventure with the British and the French and getting involved in a war. So this book actually is now being considered for reading in Taiwan, and one of the reasons is that it's it's a good introduction for them in terms of the English. It also covers the whole idea of how we became British in St. Kitts. Just the way that that whole thing unfolds, how history really impacts our present and makes history seem more important and accessible for young people. It also talks a lot about friendships. All of the books really focus on friendships and the friendship between those 3 children, and they clash and they have their arguments, especially Kyle and Ingrid are always kind of at each other a little bit, but they work it out in the end and they work together. So the first book is set in St. Kitts, as I said. I also have a very deep connection to Jamaica, and I was reading about Port Royal, and it just really stayed with me and struck me as a great place to have an adventure. So the second book in the Caribbean Adventure series is Pirates at Port Royal. And whereas Adventure Brimstone Hill is a great seller, children love it, pirates. Yeah, it's, we can't keep it on the shelves because the children just really enjoy it. So that's the second book, set in Jamaica at Port Royal, which is another fort. And they have another adventure in the past where they interact with the famous pirate Henry Morgan. The third book is set in Trinidad, where I grew up. So in a real way, it's kind of home for me. And that one is it's a departure from the others, which are really historical. This one is more ecological, and it's set at the Asa Wright Nature Center, and it deals with the issue of extinction of species, and how important it is to, to preserve and to pay attention to, and to be kind, and that sort of thing. So they also travel in the past in this one, and meet a young man and affect his life in a way that in the future leads to him becoming a real supporter of animals, and a nurturer of animals. So those are Caribbean Adventure series. St. Kitts, Jamaica,
Trinidad.
Trinidad. Okay, then we get to Montserrat, which is just, right across the
Right
water
across from us over
Antigua.
here.
And that one, I visited Montserrat. I have a close connection to Montserrat as well through a very dear friend of mine, Nerissa Golden. And I was aware of what was happening with the volcano and the impact of it, and the displacement that people were facing, and especially young people. And so this book kind of came out as a discussion about how displacement affects the children. In the book, there's a new character introduced, and his parents have gone to England to study about the volcano, and he has been left behind in St. Kitts with his grandfather, and he's very difficult, primarily because he just feels this sense of displacement. And so through his interaction with, they travel into the past, they interact with First Nation people, and through that interaction, he kind of comes to understand a little bit better the situation that he is in, that is temporary, and the importance of what his parents are doing, and that he's going to get through it. So that's sort of the bent on that one, and that one is also very, very popular. It's called Fury on Soufre Hills. I should really be showing you the color covers. That one is
Very
Fury
nice.
Soufre Hills. So that one is set in St. Kitts and in Montserrat. They begin in St. Kitts. So this is the only one where they travel in. Is it the only one? Yeah, where they travel geographically, because they begin in St. Kitts. They climb Mount Liamiga, which I climbed very recently.
Right.
Very difficult. Highly recommend it, but wow. And then when they stumble into the crater, and when they find themselves in the past, they actually are in Montserrat rather than in St. Kitts. So it's the only one where they actually travel physically. All of the others, when they travel into the past, they end up in the same physical location, just
Right.
move in time.
So we went from St. Kitts to Jamaica to Trinidad to Montserrat.
Montserrat.
And they ended up where? Because it's supposed to be 5 islands.
Yeah, so the last book that I've written so far is set in St. Lucia. So this
St.
one is
Lucia.
Chaos in Castries. So my husband is St. Lucia. St. Lucia, and I have a very close connection to St. Lucia as well. And I've been working on this book for quite a while. It's kind of really dear to me because my brother-in-law was working with me on it, and that's why it took so long, because he passed away, and I kind of just for a while just couldn't do it. But I did complete it, and this one it talks a lot about our cultural history. In St. Lucia, they speak a sort of French Creole patois, as well as English, and there's some tension always between this whole idea of standard English, and what should be taught in schools, and what people should really be be speaking and what should be encouraged. And St. Lucia is one of the islands that's really embracing their history that way and encouraging, they have radio stations and books and all this sort of thing in
Definitely.
the French Creole. So this book is set at a festival called Jeune Creole. I know I'm saying that wrong, so I apologize to any St. Lucian listeners. I cannot say it correctly, but it's kind of set around the whole idea of this young woman who wants to dance and her parents are not in favor of it, and what should she as a young person be able to do or do to to within the realms of course
Yes,
being
yes.
um being you know uh,
Don't
respectful.
worry. I understand
You know,
exactly what you're
right,
saying.
come forward and assert yourself and say this is something I really want to do and this is what I love. And
Carol,
so that's kind of what this one is about. So each one of them, they're set in a different island.
with the
They're
different,
fun, they're adventurous,
yes,
the kids
different
are,
adventures
but there's
each
also
island.
this underlying themes of the friendships or the history or the something that is also being discussed, that is going to resonate with young people because they are experiencing a lot of these things, and it gives them an option, it gives them a entry point to talk about these things
Oh,
as well.
wonderful. This is
So
such a wonderful series. It makes, I know you said you wrote these books for children, but I want to take a read. Where can we indulge? Where can we find the books
yeah.
to read?
So in Antigua, the books are available at Best of Books. We just filled an order, actually, that should be there. I know they have some now. And so, we've also been encouraging schools to encourage their students over the summer. Students lose a lot of learning over the summer. And so we've been encouraging the schools to have those as a reading list so that their students, have parents get them so that they can read over the summer, which helps, along with all the fun that they should have,
Yes.
for sure, over the summer. But it helps if they're reading as well to kind of maintain,
To maintain,
keep some of that,
keep the brain
that.
activity alive. Oh,
Yeah.
Carol, thank you so much. I could speak to you all day about these children's books. Everybody, go down to Best of Books, get your Caribbean Adventure series. Carol Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us today and letting us know about your wonderful work for the children. We appreciate you, and we'll be right back right here on Antigua Barbuda today.
Thanks so much.